At the time, I still don't know, like time just left. I even looked at her face, but just because of the swelling and everything, I said, it's not my wife. Went in another room a couple of times, and actually the nurse looked at me. She said, "You better sit down." She said, "Because you're about to pass out, and I'm not going to be able to pick you up." So I ended up having to sit down, and that's when it kicked in. That was Melanie, and this is happening. It was all real. You never think that something like this could ever happen to you or change your life. It's not something you could ever prepare or be ready for. Victim Services was always there to help. So constantly, the whole time Brad was there, is there anything you need? Is there anything you want? What can I do? What can I, is there anything? And, and he'd even tell me, if you want me to be quiet, I'll be quiet. But if there's anything that I can do for you, just tell me and I'll do it. It was just someone's there that, and if you needed anything, you could ask for it. And a lot of time I kept, "Can you just go find something else?" I would just go talk to him, yep, no problem. And he wouldn't even hesitate, and it didn't matter if it was 5 seconds ago, if it was 2 hours ago, he would go and check every single time. And that was huge.
We will help anyway. We are like the best friend that they could tell anything to, or that they could console. That's what we do.
Fort McMurray and Wood Buffalo is a bit of a unique region. We've been experiencing growth for quite some period of time. 7% a year is our average, but we look to the future, we see much more growth coming at us for the next 20 years. And when you think about a community and the intensity of the needs and services that happen with that kind of growth pressure, we need to step up our ability to provide services in every area. So you'll experience things like lots of students in your schools. You'll go to the emergency room at the hospital and you'll find lots of patients waiting for treatment. On the roads, it's the traffic that you'll see, but unfortunately, on the other side of the community, you're also going to find that victims of crime will also see an increase in terms of the population that's gone up and the services that are needed. So for the Fort McMurray region in particular, we're so very blessed to have a victim services unit that works with our Wood Buffalo RCMP as well as our Family and Community Support Services group.
Fort McMurray Victim Services is a police-based service agency. We work with victims of crime, trauma, and tragedy, and provide them with information, immediate support, and referrals to other community agencies that can be of benefit and assistance to them in their time of need. We currently operate our office with 6 full-time employees and 18 volunteer advocates. And through the dedication of these individuals, we provide service 24/7, 365 days a year to all of our local residents in need.
We're very fortunate here in Wood Buffalo Detachment, and due to the fact that our Victim Services Unit is fully integrated within the detachment. They actually work inside our office space. Throughout the day, we have members of the detachment are in constant contact with the victim service members. And I constantly get compliments from the regular members in the detachment, the police officers in the detachment, that the services that they provide are of value to them.
Often when victim services staff and advocates are called to duty, it can be during a tragic and traumatic event for people in their lives.
In 2007, I was stopped in traffic at a red light. I had a gravel truck in front of me and had a gravel truck come behind me with an impaired driver that didn't stop. He pushed my car into the gravel truck in front of me and underneath it. I was trapped inside the car for about 2.5 hours before they were able to get me completely out of the car and to an ambulance to transport me to the hospital here.
Sometimes as victim services workers, we're called to the hospital to deal with fatalities, serious motor vehicle collisions, assaults, sexual assaults, or any sort of crime or tragedy that they need victim services support.
They didn't think that I was going to survive the accident down at the hospital.
Victim Services was right there as soon as we got to the main entrance of the hospital.
It was a lot of scans and a lot of procedures, a lot of tubes and transfusions.
In the ER of the hospital, She couldn't be seen. We didn't know anything still. All we knew, she was in an accident, and that was it.
The focus of the nurses and the physicians at the time of the trauma or assault or whatever the case may be is getting the patient into a stable condition.
Victim Services was able to go out and pick and get little details because they had different access, of course, within the hospital. They could go and talk to people and get information from the nurses that I couldn't get to ask. So
we rely heavily on Victim Services to handle the many family members that come in who are waiting for information about how their loved one is doing.
I had broken every bone in my face except for 2. I broke 7 ribs, 3 vertebrae in my back, and 1 in my neck. And I had lots of cuts and wounds everywhere else and bruises just from the pressure and the compression of being inside the vehicle for so long.
And even little updates at the time were huge. So that was very helpful, calming.
We help the individuals and family with emotional support, and we help them get through the difficult time.
In the case of a sexual assault, to assist that sexual assault person through the process of us obtaining a rape kit or following them after the rape kit may have been done, or if they choose not to have a rape kit done, to offer them emotional support in the hospital as well as outside the hospital once they leave.
When people pass away and they're seen here at the hospital, they have to be viewed. This is a duty that we treat in a very serious fashion.
One of the hardest things we have to do as victim services workers is help family, friends, and individuals do a viewing of their loved one.
Unfortunately, it's not permitted to have people enter into the morgue area itself. We use a viewing room for this purpose. They'll be able to see their loved one through a small window when a curtain is lifted away. So generally speaking, people are in there and they're provided the support of the community through EHS and through Victim Services. And at that point, they have to answer the question as to whether or not this is their loved one. It's not a duty that any of my officers find pleasant. In the time that I've worked here, it's not something that I've ever really grown accustomed to, and not something that I hope I ever do. And that can be very painful for next of kin, for family members, for loved ones. And unfortunately, what that tends to contribute toward is the fact that in a place that has so much hope, there's really not a lot for the viewing room. It's really the saddest place that we have in the hospital. We'll also provide viewings for therapeutic reasons. And again, we'll be assisted in these cases by members of the Victim Services Unit.
As a police-based service agency, the majority of our calls come directly from our RCMP members.
We as RCMP officers get called to different types of files. Some of them are very emotionally disturbing for the people involved. These types of calls could be anywhere from a sexual assault, and sometimes we do have to do next of kin notifications, so that would be informing a family member that it could be an aunt, an uncle, a mother, a father, a daughter, a son has died. In these situations, we usually utilize our Victim Services Unit. They either attend these calls with us, or we call them out after the fact if the victim feels that they need emotional support or just support in general.
Having the victim service members there with our members in uniform is an incredible piece that supports the family.
Hi, Brandy. Hi, I'm Constable Galan for the RCMP.
When you go to a type of call like this, it's not just a in, out. You don't know what you're going to deal with. I've had people fainting. I've had people throw up. I've had people panic. People push me out of the way. I've had people get angry, and you don't take it personally, because again, when you get this type of news, nobody wants to get this type of news. So when you get it, automatically you go into a state of shock.
We'll deal with any questions they have regarding the investigation or how that came to be. We normally leave fairly quickly because we do have to do investigative things with that file or other calls that may be coming in. So our Victim Services Unit are able to stay on the scene after we leave.
Which allows the police officer to do his job from a policing officer viewpoint his reports, follow-up investigations, etc.
We are right there to catch the family member. We're there to hold them, to hug them, to pat them on the back, whatever it is that they need. If there's children in the location that we're going to, we're always two of us. One will take a child out of the room, play with a child in a playroom.
It's very hard for us as well with the different calls that we go to and the emotional trauma that we experience to provide that comforting role that the Victim Services Unit can. So they are very important in that aspect.
We make sure that they are okay, physically, mentally. We make sure if they are alone, we have a family member or a friend come and stay with them. We will make phone calls if they need to. If they need to notify family outside of town or even in town, we will stay and notify the family members for them. Also, we will help with funeral arrangements if they need it, or a memorial service. We will help anyway.
It's Michelle from Victim Services.
We are trained. We have continuous training on everything from suicide preventions and every type of training possible for next of kin notification.
Every day I have comments back from the members in the attachment of the great work, great work ethic, and the professionalism that was done and that is done day in and day out by the members of our Victim Services Unit.
The support, recovery, and healing process for the majority of our clients is not just single-handedly on our shoulders. Thanks to the collaborative efforts of many of our fellow community partners, we are able to provide better service to those in need. They're quite numerous to mention, but there's certainly a few that I'd like to point out, such as Family Crisis Society, Fort McMurray Food Bank, and some other solutions.
When we go out on a call and it's for a sudden death or an NOK or really any call where a family has lost a loved one, we would provide them with pre-prepared package from SOS.
Some Other Solutions is a nonprofit agency. We're a crisis prevention, intervention, postvention agency in the city. We have been around for about 28 years and facilitate several different portfolios.
So this is a perfect example of when we would use referrals for our victims. So SOS could further help the victim than we can when it comes to bereavement groups and grief sessions, and also other support groups that Victim Services can't provide them with.
It's grief and loss. Loss can mean financial, it can be health, it can be position, it can be status, it can be relationships. It's grief and loss. So really what happens, how we get buffeted by life, all that looks like is what comes into our office. And so we're there to help, and if we can't, we offer resources and referrals.
Creating this communication or connection with SOS really benefits both of us, so they receive the referral and we can better help the victim by furthering their assistance.
Good afternoon, Wood Buffalo Food Bank, Ariana speaking. So the Wood Buffalo Food Bank Association provides an interim supply of food to people in our region who for whatever reasons don't have access to that food. And a portion of our clients come from referrals from Victim Services, and these referrals generally are people who would not otherwise have accessed our services, so it allows us to reach a larger demographic of people who need interim supply of food to ensure their own food security.
Some of our clients do require our assistance with the food bank services. We would assist in special circumstances. For example, if one of our clients has been severely injured and they're not able to come out to do it themselves. Some of our clients are fleeing domestic violence relationships and they've just set up in a new home. They may have children and it's just not feasible for them to come and get their own products. So in that case, Victim Services would come out and assist with the order. In other circumstances, we may just call and make the referral for them. We do assist in crisis moments only. This is not something that we would be able to assist with on a regular basis. But if someone has mobility issues or, like I said before, if they're fleeing a relationship, we would assist on a one-time basis, and then we would help them to actually set up the service for themselves that they can do on their own.
Our collaboration with Victim Services and other agencies in town are important ones because they do allow us to reach out to clients that we might not see otherwise, but they also give us an opportunity to utilize their services as well, so it becomes a more reciprocal relationship.
One of the most rewarding projects that we've had the pleasure of being part of is the Wood Buffalo Party Program.
The PARTY program stands for Prevent Alcohol and Risk-Related Trauma in Youth, and it's a nationally recognized program. Fort McMurray is an approved site. So we work with a group of stakeholders in town, and one of those very important stakeholders is Victim Services, and we work to educate youth, primarily grade 9, and we're looking at going into grade 12s this year, to make smart choices and prevent serious injuries and fatalities. The key areas that we're trying to really promote with the PARTY program is it's the consequences. So we start with a mock collision. This is the consequences of poor choices. We feature the impaired driver and the distracted driver. We move on to the prevention focus, so the youth that are participating learn how to make smarter choices. And then we also focus on where Victim Services is really valuable in this process, is what services are there if they're in an incident, in a collision, have an injury or a fatality. What is it that the community services can provide? Victim Services is a huge component of that, so that people can still lead good, healthy lives. They need some support services, and Victim Services has the heart to that.
Victim Services and the Family Crisis Society work together to help victims of family violence and sexual assault.
The Fort McMurray Family Crisis Society provides free programs and services for individuals that are living with or have experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, and/or abuse.
Unity House, which falls under the umbrella of Family Crisis Society, is a shelter that services women and children who have experienced family violence. So oftentimes we work with them to find safe places for women to stay. Sometimes we will also transport the clients down and make sure they get there safely. The Family Crisis Society has many different programs that they operate. The New Beginnings, Changing Ways, and their men's program, outreach, or their sexual assault program for counseling, and will refer any victims of family violence or sexual assault to a lot of their programs.
The Family Crisis Society programs are coordinated with Victim Services so that each individual receives the services they need to succeed. This includes making sure individuals have shelter, their basic needs met, emotional support, court support, and information about resources and options available to them.
Order in court, all rise.
One of the fundamental services that we provide to our clients and their families is assistance with the court process. There are many steps involved, and we walk them through each and every one.
My accident happened right at the beginning of October. I remember meeting the people from Victim Services, and they were there to tell me, like, this is what's going to happen now. Here's the steps that we're going to take. There's going to be court proceedings, there's going to be impact statements, and there's going to be a lot of emotional conflict that's going to take place and happen. But they contacted me right after I got home, and I'm still in contact with Victim Services today.
We provide court preparation with our victims. This means that approximately a month before the victim goes to court, we would bring them to the courthouse and show them all the responsibilities that will be theirs for that day. So we'll bring them into the courtroom, we'll show them where the prosecutor will be sitting, we'll show them where the defense will be sitting, we show them where they're going to be standing and what will be asked of them throughout the court process. We also accompany the victim to court during trial so that we can provide emotional support. We have a private family room here, so if the victim is suffering from some anxiety or has some fears, we can actually go to a secure area where they can sit and be comfortable until it's time to testify. Before the court process, we would also assist with victim impact statements and filling out applications for restitution. The court process can be very overwhelming for a victim. We really try to provide the most comfortable and informed environment. By providing information on the victim impact statement and by being a court liaison with the Crown Attorney's Office, it can really help a victim feel more comfortable through this very difficult process.
You may be seated.
Your Honor, we would be ready to start the trial of...
The role of the Crown is that of a public servant. We are the lawyers who represent the government or the state. So when a person is charged with a crime, the file then comes to us, and we then determine whether or not there's a reasonable likelihood of conviction and whether it's in the public's interest to proceed with the prosecution of that matter. Our role is different than that of other lawyers who are in private practice, for example, defense lawyers. We don't have clients as prosecutors, so it becomes very difficult sometimes for witnesses or complainants in certain matters to understand that we are actually not their lawyers, but rather we're there to determine what evidence is on the file, whether that evidence is supportive of a conviction, and if not, we won't proceed with the prosecution. It becomes very helpful for a prosecutor when a person has been guided through the system or told what to expect in court. We take for granted that we go to court on a daily basis, and most witnesses and complainants don't. And so I've no doubt it's a very terrifying experience for them, or for some of them. With the assistance of victim services, that fear can often be alleviated, and I've noticed myself that in fact does happen. Additionally, we have, many instances where the victim services support worker will attend court with usually it's a complainant in a matter. I get a sense from them that they tend to feel more comforted by having that support person with them. I recently prosecuted a matter that involved a young child. She was, of course, terrified in her surroundings. And the support worker who was with her was able to effectively stand beside her at the witness box, and that provided tremendous comfort for this child who was giving evidence, and she did a good job of her evidence.
Although our office is located in the urban service area, we have developed close relationships with our rural communities and First Nations. We provide service on a regular basis to Conklin, Janvier, and Fort McKay. And once a month, we actually get to Fort Chipewyan, which is a fly-in community.
A lot of these people that are having a lot of problems in their personal lives, they feel that they can't connect with their own simply because it's too personal. So when we do have like victim service coming in once a week basis, and they make themselves available to the people, then they know that, hey, this will be where the confidential can stay. And they feel more easy to be approached victim service, then it's a bonus for us because we just guide the people to them. And that's where the trust gained comes in, and the victim service feel welcome when they get there. So they get to know the community. So in that sense, we do have the trust established there, and the consistency once a week is very important.
Here in Wood Buffalo, our unit is comprised of over 25 volunteers from the community.
It's been 7 years this year since I've joined Victim Services Unit in Fort McMurray, and I don't regret a day.
These people volunteer an incredible amount of time of their own personal time to be called out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to come and assist a police officer in a time of crisis, to focus their support structure on someone that has been involved in a crime, someone that has, maybe a family member has died.
I was working in town, and one of the girls I worked with, she was volunteering with Victim Services. And I was always curious, like you just get called in the middle of the night to go for these strange calls? Like, how can you do it? How do you do it? And she convinced me. She told me there was lots of training. She said, give it a try. So I was interested in helping people, and what better way to help people than in their time of need. So I signed up. I said, I'll give it a try. And that's what I've been here ever since.
And the amount of time and the passion that these people bring to that to support the police officers in their duties is absolutely incredible, and something that we take very seriously, and we thank those volunteers for that time that they provide to their community.
As the public education officer for the unit, I often get asked or spoken, and people will say, I don't think I could ever do that type of work because I'm too soft-hearted. And certainly in working with each and every one of these individuals, they're the most soft-hearted, compassionate people I know. And thanks to their dedication to our unit and to the people that they step forward to help, that's how we're able to provide our 24/7 service.
The most rewarding is helping a family member. If somebody in need, and then a month, 2 months, or even a year down the road, you see them, their lives have changed just because you were there that night. It makes it all worthwhile. Like, we don't get thanked every day. We don't get thanked after every call out, every phone call, we don't get thanked. But it's that one time that we get thanked that makes everything worthwhile.
As Crown Counsel, we deal with many files throughout every day. And we also go home at night thinking about those files. I know that there are times when I've had to make significant decisions on files that affect people's lives, and I have felt comforted myself as a person and a member of the public myself, knowing that Victim Services has been there to provide the information necessary that I can't always convey directly to a complainant or a witness.
I love every minute of it. I love helping them. I love seeing them move on from the situation. I've seen it where it was a domestic that years of being in an abusive relationship, that one time that you go and you talk to them, and all of a sudden everything is good. They get out of the abusive relationship. They move on, they're happy. And that right there is why I joined Victim Services, and that's why I love it.
The fact that it was Victim Services, they did touch me, touch my heart when they offered so much when the accident happened. Whether they did anything or not, it was a presence that was truly there to help, and it did have a good impact. And I'd never forget Victim Services. If they ever need anything, I'd give it to them.